What's up, y'all? Shook here, back with another video on the Holy Paladin, doing some 2v2 with Plum on his Windwalker. This is the build I'm running for this video. You'll notice one big difference is that I have Barrier of Faith instead of Reclamation, and these PvP talents are the same that I always use. These are the two that I swap out of, so you can swap out of Ultimate Sacrifice for Searing Glare or Denounce. You can swap out of Divine Vision for Denounce or Searing Glare. And that's about all I have to say for the build, so let's get into the games. So this first game is against an Affliction Warlock and a Disc Priest. You can see Plum in-cap the Affliction Warlock because of PI. Then he goes in, he starts doing damage. The Warlock does go ahead and use Gateway. I give him the Blessing of Summer on his burst. I also go ahead and pop my Barrier of Faith there and dispel Plum. So he's gonna want to keep me in line. Like, basically the best thing that this Affliction Warlock can do is pull me into a weird position. And you can see the big mistake that he does is try and just kind of face tank Plum in the open like this. So this gives us the distinct advantage where I can just sit here and play near the pillar and dispel, not off cooldown, but when I need to, and just run behind the pillar, and he's not going to be able to get the burst damage on me. It also allows us to, just have all kinds of different strategies. We can either win in dampening, or we can out mana them, because I'll be able to get drinks. And I mean, you can see where the Disc Priest is playing too. So kind of a big positioning blunder here. And that kind of brings me to my next point, is that obviously inflation has really hit. So these games are on my alt Paladin that's like 100 to 200 MMR lower than my main Paladin, and these games are anywhere between 2k and 2100, and that was not the case before the holidays. During the holidays, I was spending time with family and enjoying stuff, and that was only like a week and a half that I didn't play, and I came back and now I'm like 150 MMR higher on this thing after not queuing, which I think is honestly great. I don't like deflated seasons. I know a lot of people don't like deflated seasons, so I don't mind having, that kind of inflated season, because in Shadowlands, like Season 4 and Season 3, we saw, some of the worst, like, ratings you'll ever see, because they didn't do a new enchant, they didn't do a new elite sets, so nobody wanted to queue. Right here, I'm going to get a drink just so we can get ahead on mana. I go ahead and tell Plum to use his Karma, and the Priest is not dispelling that Karma dot, and it actually does a decent bit of damage if you max it out. So you can see here, he does get really low, the Priest does swap. I still have Lay on Hands, which I can use just for kind of mana at this point, because we're at 45% dampening. And right here we get the Warlock's Wall. We have Hand of Sacrifice, so I'm not worried about Plum dying. We also have Bubble. I'm not worried about me dying. So at this point, it's literally just, we kind of just win at this point, as long as we don't let this Priest drink. Because as soon as we hit like 50% dampening, the Mortal Strike that Plum has on his Windwalker is just going to be too much to heal. So I do pop my Trinket because it was a full fear, and they don't really have much CC that doesn't DR with fear. Like the Priest has fear, and then the Warlock has fear. He also has Mortal Coil and stuff, but not really worried about that. So the Dark Glare is kind of hitting me here. I can go ahead and, there we go, I use Lay on Hands, just again for mana, not even necessarily for the heal. I go ahead and Barrier Faith, and Plum does take down the Warlock. So they can definitely win that matchup, especially on this map, but they have to pull us into awkward positions where he can do damage to both of us at the same time. You kind of saw there, that was, again, a 2k team, and I definitely don't think that would have been a 2k team like a week ago. So kind of interesting with how inflation is going. This next match is against Disc Priest and a Feral Druid, and they're going to try and bleed both of us, so it's actually good that I'm on my Dwarf here. I would have really liked to have gone ahead and used my Dwarf Racial there in the opener. I think using it there would have been better than when I actually did use it in this match. But that's okay. I'm honestly not used to having it because I'm used to playing on the main Paladin, and I have the useless Blood Elf Racial that's not good at all. But right here, Plum is just trying to kind of swap around from the Feral to the Disc Priest. He's getting a lot of their defensives here. Feral does put a full stun on him. We have Hand of Sacrifice. We also have Blessing or Protection. And I'm kind of wary to use Hand of Sacrifice versus this Feral because I don't want him to be bleeding both of us and then me taking the Hand of Sacrifice damage. I honestly thought he was going to be running the big Ferocious Bite build where they kind of just like stun you and do a bunch of damage in the stun. And he might have been running that, but it just didn't feel like he was getting those big Ferocious Bites like some of the other ferals. So I'm going to walk him behind the pillar and then hodge him because he doesn't have a trinket. The priest is going to chase him all the way over there just to try and dispel him. He actually takes a lot of damage while he was just trying to chase and dispel the feral. So right here I should have pre-freedom Plum so he'd get stuck in any kind of root, and he's going to get stuck in another root, and so right here I'm slowed. I'm going to kick that clone that was going to be on me. Plum does get feared, so I kind of want to have this weird balance of where I don't want to be too close to the priest, but also don't want to be too far from Plum in case he gets like rooted or feared, so I can dispel him or freedom him. Plum does go ahead and pop Karma there, and you see him rop the feral off of me. He's trying to like chase me down. I think this is a big blunder on the feral's part here, because that he does actually MD my bubble, and I think the feral should have just stayed on me there instead of swapping back to Plum, because now I kind of get to reset. And again, we're never worried about Plum dying because I have that Hand of Sacrifice and I have both bops. So right here I do go ahead and use a Blessing of Protection. Honestly, kind of a wasted blessing because I just wanted Plum to like have full pressure there and not get stunned, but that one definitely could have been better. So kind of the same thing. Dwarf Racial and Blessing Protection, definitely could have used those at better times, but we have so much pressure at this point. Like they're gonna have a really hard time catching up. So right there, I think Plum gets cloned and he does use his trinket. And right here, we're like kind of tied on mana. We do have the Blessing of Summer coming back up. So if we live until that Blessing of Summer, like it's just gonna be game over. Like that's too much pressure. Right here I need to give Plum a freedom or dispel him. I do dispel the root off of him, and I'm trying to just kind of line that clone. I'm gonna take him back behind the pillar and blind him again. Again, he does have his trinket right there. He chooses not to use it, so kind of I don't know, that was kind of questionable. Definitely would have trinketed that if I was the feral. So pretty good win on that one, and this team was, yeah, it's another 2020 team. Right here we have an Arms Warrior and a Resto Druid. So this is kind of a tough comp. I will say Windwalker after the buffs is really, really, really strong, but this comp in particular is also a really strong comp. Just the Arms Warrior's 4-set with that Blade Storm slow is really powerful. So right here you can see Plum making full use out of that Blessing of Summer. He was doing a bunch of damage. We can actually kill the Resto Druid in a stun if we catch him without hots, and he's just not being careful. Like say he doesn't have Iron Bark, doesn't have hots, and we can rot his Tranquility. So right here, again, he's playing really, really aggressive, and Plum's gonna punish him for that. I think he used Overgrowth there. I'm not sure. Looked like he used Overgrowth, and Plum's just kind of chasing him down. Like we're not too worried. He was trying to bait my kick there. I do go ahead and blind that Cyclone to kind of interrupt it, and he's doing a bunch of damage to that warrior. He gets all the hots up here, and I'm gonna hodge that clone to stop that one. And he does use Iron Bark, and the warrior intervenes back to the druid. He's running that PvP talent that gives you Heart of the Wild whenever you shift into a combat form. I don't know, it's actually probably pretty good because he doesn't really, it's either that or Thorns, I think, and he definitely doesn't need Reactive Resin because we don't have an offensive Dispel, so that's kind of interesting to take that over Thorns, I guess, if you can utilize it properly. I do kick his clone there. He shifts into Moonkin form, and he's trying to DPS me for whatever reason. I don't know what's going on with that. I do need to get Tears Deliverance back up here, so we do get a double stun, and the warrior's kind of like chasing me down. I use Aura Master here just as a kind of as a way to have a shield wall. And so now I'm going to walk around the corner, cast Tears Deliverance. We do get the Tears Deliverance off, and we also have Plum pop his Karma. So right here we're kind of even on mana. I do use my my Dwarf Racial to get that little bleed off of me. I think I was trying to go for a drink there, but didn't really matter. I use Hand of Divinity combined with Barrier of Faith. It's also a pretty nice little combo if you can use either Divine Favor or Hand of Divinity with your Barrier of Faith. because then you can just kind of stack up a really nice shield. I'm going to go ahead and dispel that off Plum before I get cloned. We do have both blessings of protection back up here. I get cloned again. Plum uses his port, so he ports into the room, and they can't really do anything about it. You see him channeling that full mist, and then he can port back. So we basically just stopped all their pressure. We get the druid's trinket there, and again, we're never worried about Plum dying, because as long as I have my Hand of Sacrifice and Blessing and Protection, you know, I'll be able to save him. So right here, I was going for another, like trying to get another drink just to make sure we don't lose on mana. I do sack him. He does get cloned on the sack, which is kind of unfortunate, but I'm not super worried about it. I go ahead and pop my bubble here. He does clone Plum again, so right here it gets a little sketchy. Just kind of a bit of a miscue there. I thought Plum was on full clone DR, or I probably wouldn't have burned bubble like that. The druid pops his tranquility and double Trent because he is kind of terrified of Plum's burst here. I do go ahead and pop Blessing of Protection, knowing that they can't really peel. I hodged the warrior there. I think I was actually going for a hodge on the druid, and I may have like fat fingered that. The warrior does trinket. I blind him behind the pillar, so now he's sitting that full blind, and there's nothing this druid can do. Plum just kind of takes him down. Again, once we hit that 50% dampening, it's really, really hard to heal through a Windwalker. They are very strong right now. But anyways, let me know what you guys think about these games. I hope you guys enjoyed them. I'm going to be back posting more now that the holidays are done. Hope you guys had a great holiday season. And if you're new here, be sure to subscribe, hit that like button. It helps me out a ton. And I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.